Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. Hull will be joining us here momentarily. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of this episode is called The Pound Test. The Commanders are going tomorrow night over to Cleveland to face them at 7 o'clock, and so we are joined by Logan Paulsen of the Commanders. Thank you for joining us, brother. It was a pleasure to meet you on Tuesday. How you doing?
Yeah, it was great to see you guys on Tuesday. I mean, Mike was hanging out with like all the A-listers in some fancy tent, so I didn't get to see Mike, but it was nice to see you, Kyle, and other Mike. So that was good.
I was always nearby you, though. I don't even think you realize that. I was kind of blending in with the A-listers, like you. Obviously, you know how it is being an A-lister. So I wanted to
definitely not an A-lister, but
yeah, no, you are. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you're borderline though. But I wanted to get away from all these D-listers like Kyle and stuff. I couldn't be seen with them. That'll just cap my image, you know.
Yeah,
so
I got you.
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
Totally understand. But I want to get your opinion, Logan, because obviously tomorrow night is a big game for Sam Howell in particular because he is getting the start. So I want to get your opinion. Do you think that he should be out there for a series, for a quarter, for a half? Where do you feel like Sam Howell should be playing in this game?
I don't know what it should be. I mean, I think it'll probably be like if the offense looks good, he'll be in and out really quick. If the offense struggles, he'll be in there a little bit longer. And I probably would do the same thing if I was coach, like that's kind of my philosophy. I want to see something positive to take from the offense, basically, right? I think I have every indication just from watching practice and stuff that things are going to go really smooth. I think they're detail oriented, they're sharp, they're lining up well, but you never know how that's going to look, when the lights come on. So hopefully it's one and done, in and out. Obviously, I think Sam Howell needs as many reps as possible, but you got to be smart about injuries and things like that. So I think it'll be hopefully it'll be quick in and out, and the offense looks really sharp. And Sam Howell, we're on what day is that? On Sunday, we're talking about how great Sam Howell looks. So
he does look good. He's a good looking dude, man. But a lot of people make fun of his unkept hair. That it's too like.
I mean, that's like in now. That's like the style, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's cool. Like that's a cool thing to do. Trust me.
Yeah, you get it, Mike. I get it.
No, I know. Yeah, no.
Major
Tutty
like has the same haircut. It's weird.
Yeah,
that is weird. Major Tutty came out strong hair game the other day.
Yeah, he does. He's got a sick fade, dude. Good for him. But of course, some breaking news came out about Eric Bieniemy. Ron Rivera doesn't know how to bite his tongue or word things apparently, but it's okay. But what is it like playing with a coach like that? Like, do you really buy into like players were really like offended or like didn't know how to take to that type of coaching? Because that's just like high school ball, baby,
Well, I do think now, like with NAIL and transfer portal, guys are a little bit more discerning about where they go to college, and if the environment's not correct, they leave. So I don't think they have to deal with a lot of hard coaching the same way that like I did when I was in college. Like you couldn't transfer unless you wanted to lose a year. So I think there is something to that, right? The college athlete now is a little bit different. They're a little bit more professional in their approach. They have different expectations. If you go to some of these college recruiting trips, like I coach a lot of high school athletes, and they tell me about the recruiting trips. They tell me about their time at the college, and it's so different. It's so much more accommodating of the student athlete, which is good and bad. And so I think you get a whole bunch of kids who don't really know what hard coaching is, and I think that is part of life, So like here in the NFL, they can't just pack up and leave. They got to stick around and learn how to deal with a different coaching philosophy. So like I don't really like Ron said that stuff. I think it's all true stuff. I think it's good stuff. I think it probably happened during OTAs, guys getting used to different coaching styles, different approaches. And that's life, man. You have a boss that hits you pretty hard or whatever, like that's how it goes. So I think there is probably an adjustment period for some of these younger guys who again have not been around coaches like that. And I think it's an appropriate conversation to have if they're having a hard time with it. Hey man, I don't really get why you're yelling at me like this or whatever it is. Like get that addressed. That's totally fine. So I don't have any problem with what Ron said. I don't have any problem with the players coming to Ron. I don't have any problem with anything because like that's just good management of human beings. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Right. So you guys heard it here first. St. Logan does not he does not endorse participation trophies, which I get. I understand that. It builds the weak. You said it, not me. But did you have any coaches like that? Like, it's got to be weird being a man and being in it. Like, I'm too
Yeah.
nervous to ask for young kids autographs these days. I'm like, this kid's 23. I'm the creepy old guy who's like, sign this. Like, did you ever have coaches like that got in your yelled at you guys like that, cussed a lot and stuff in the NFL?
Oh, absolutely. One guy that sticks out to me in particular was Danny Smith, who is a great guy, and I
Right.
really enjoy being around Danny. But Danny, I remember my rookie year, I had like a little bit of a hamstring pull, and I was like, Coach, I'm going to do the drill, but I don't know if I can cover the kick. And I think he thought I was trying to
Get
get
out
out
of
of
it.
special teams, or special
Classic
teams was
Logan
beneath me.
move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
classic me.
Yeah.
And he gave me a pretty severe tongue lashing to the point where like I wanted to fight him right there on the field, and I like
Damn.
swallowed my pride and kind of got myself together. But like that was kind of status quo for me, even in college. Like, I was, EB never coached me directly, but he was a running back coach when I was at UCLA. And so he used to,
Oh.
I used to watch him get absolutely after people, like just in ways that you wouldn't believe, demanding very high things from them. So I'd seen it, I've been exposed to it, but still, it's always tough adjusting to it. And so, I had a conversation with him afterwards, much like this in this instance, where I was like, hey man, like I'm not trying to skate the drill. I really have an issue. And he basically was like, Logan, you need to play special teams, and I want to make sure that is abundantly clear to you. And I appreciated his insight, I appreciated the way he talked to me afterwards, but in the moment it was intense. And it's fair that it is intense, because this is that man's livelihood. He
Yeah.
needs to trust that I'm going to do what I got to do. And if I don't, then he's literally putting his family's immediate future on the line, because if he gets fired or whatever, the coaches get fired, they're moving. So I totally understand that. I totally empathize with that. And I think, like it is part of doing something at a high performance level. You're going to get people that are very high, that demand high things from you. And I think it's totally appropriate and fair. I think there's right and wrong ways to speak to people, but I do think that next level of passion and intensity is something that's totally be expected in those situations.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you there. Now, to move on to the next topic, I want to talk about this game tomorrow night. Throughout camp, I want to put this very delicately. Are there any players that you wouldn't, if head coaching Logan Paulsen on, any players that you wouldn't play tomorrow night versus the Browns? Just say that what you've seen in camp, they're comfortable, they're solidified, they're surefire for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's always a couple guys that you're like, well, maybe they don't play. Like Charles Leno, just because he's like an 11-year vet and he kind of is who he is. But if Sam Howell's out there, I probably want my starting left tackle out there. Chase, Montez, probably want to see him take a couple. John Allen, I don't really need to see him, but I'd imagine he's going to be out there if that first group's out there. Payne, kind of same thing. So there are a couple guys that I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't play, but I kind of expect them all to play. If the first group's going to play, like that's why John is John Allen, because he doesn't want to be omitted from that first group. He wants to be in there, and they might only take 6 plays. It might be 2, 3 and outs or whatever, but I think they'll play a little bit. And I don't think there's anybody. Obviously, those names that I mentioned are guys that I would consider not playing, but I think for the most part, they're not going to play a lot in the There's one less preseason game. Like, get them out there, let them run around a little bit, and rock and roll.
All right, then let me have a better question for you, because I thought that was piss poor.
Yeah, that last one was terrible.
Yeah, really was. What bubble player that you really impressed you so far through training camp that you think that you're keeping your eye on tomorrow night to see how they do against other competition?
Sure. Well, there's a couple guys. I mean, the 4 young wide receivers, Sample, Casimir Allen, Bryson Tremaine, and Tinsley are 4 guys that I'm going to watch very closely, because I think they're all good football players. I think Tinsley is probably the most polished of the bunch, but hasn't really had a lot of production in camp. Casimir Allen as a returner is a big one. Bryson Tremaine played gunner in college. I want to see what he looks like. Sample in OTAs and minicamp was on fire, but has quieted a little bit, so I want to see what that looks like. Offensive line, Mason Brooks is a guy that's getting a lot of burn, and I think rightfully so. He deserves that.
Really?
And I always butcher this guy's name, so I'm very sorry to him. It's John-Smith, number 60. The guard is a guy that from the XFL that has done a really, really nice job. So I want to see what he looks like when real bullets are going. Chris Paul is another one. He's not a fringe guy, but I want to see what that looks like. Ricky Stromberg, how does he look against, like, in a real game situation, calling the stuff, calling the protection, getting the runs ID'd. And then defensively, I think the guy that I want to see a lot is Quan. I think Quan, like we've seen Forbes do a lot of good stuff in practice. Quan, again, has been a little all over the place in terms of where he's playing He's playing in the post. He's playing in the box. He's playing nickel. He's playing outside. And I want to see just kind of where they want to play him and what's going on with that. So that's an interesting one. And I think Andre Jones is a guy that over the last probably 3, 4, 5 days of practice has flashed a little bit. He's a big physical dude who's got a nice pass rush feel. Is that just because he's kind of figured out the offensive line, or is that more because he's actually it's clicking for him as what it means to be a professional pass rusher? So those are some guys that I think I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Obviously, Khalid Huxton's a guy I'm always watching because he has this tremendously high upside. But those are a couple guys, and then obviously the kind of bottom of the room, DBs, I think, are guys that I'm going to be watching because who's going to win that nickel spot? Who's going to be the fourth corner? I think it's going to be a big deal because all those guys have been playing really, really good football. So, I think some good football players aren't going to make this team, but I think this is kind of a data point in establishing, hey, I deserve to be here, or hey, I don't deserve to be here. So.
Yeah, real quick, could you just elaborate on Mason Brooks? What have you seen, kind of having that talk about him throughout training camp?
He's a big old boy.
So, yeah, big old boy. So, yeah, Mason Brooks is a guy that I think, as a young player is very technically sound. I like this tape a lot. He only had I want to say it was 64 or 65 plays in college his senior year because he had an injury. No, he was benched basically. And I'm surprised because those 65 plays were excellent. The plays that he had in the All-Star game this last year were excellent. And so he comes in and he's very technically savvy. He's got a good feel for angles and positions. And obviously he's working with the threes, so it's hard to kind of say exactly what he is. Like he had a couple reps with the twos. He looked pretty good. He's fast. He's athletic. And those are all things you're looking for in that guard spot. He reminds me of like a Cosme Light a little bit. Good athlete, good technical understanding, nice physicality. So I want to see what he looks like against some different competition, and when the pads are on, the lights are on, like, is it for real? And so I think a lot of people have been talking about him, and I think it's deservedly so. But again, you got to see it when it, against other teams and other competition in a game situation when the coach isn't standing 10 feet behind you, kind of reminding you what you should be doing. So,
yeah. I like the idea of having one of them undrafted throwback whites on the offensive line that's just out there mauling people. You know what I mean? Remember those guys? It's been a while.
Man. I don't know if I can comment on that.
Yeah, no, you can. It's okay. I'll comment on it. Though. It's okay. I'm uncancelable, I've heard. But so that kind of leads into what positions are you watching in the game? Like what position battles? I know the defense is pretty much set. It seems like, obviously some depth rotation battles are going on, but what is Logan Paulsen? What is St. Logie's watching for during the game?
Yeah, so you're always watching the draft picks. Those are guys that are always going to catch your eye. Forbes, like, what does he look like? I think what I've heard is that Cleveland's going to play their guys for an undisclosed amount of time, so he's going to get to go up against like Cooper and some other really good receivers. And so, what does that look like? It's not going to be a complicated offense. I just watched actually the the first season game from last year for Cleveland. It's a lot of simple stuff, but how does he match up? So then Quan I mentioned, Stromberg I mentioned. Braden Daniels is a guy that, again, has been having a hard time in camp. What does he look like against other people? Can he kind of find a rhythm? Can he figure out that pass protection stuff? I don't know. Or is he moving a guard? So, right. And then obviously I mentioned Andre Jones, but I think KJ Henry is a guy that has been playing better the last couple of days. So can he play varsity football? Does he deserve a roster spot over a guy like Casey Toohill or James Smith-Williams? And as of right now, I would say no, but like this is the game where you can kind of say, hey, I do, right? And then obviously Chris Rodriguez is a guy just because of he is the perfect guy for preseason football. And what I mean by that is like his running style in practice doesn't really translate very well because he's this physical bruiser, kind of like Marshawn Lynch-ish, in terms of his physical running style. That doesn't always come across in practice. So now, hey, buckle the chin strap, boys, put the mouthpiece in and see what it looks like. So I'm excited to watch all that. For sure, those guys, obviously, I mentioned the defensive back room, the safeties, and the that kind of extra corner spot, because I think the top of that depth chart is pretty well established. The offensive line, how that's gelling, how that looks, I don't think, I don't think Cleveland's going to play all their starters on the defensive line. I wouldn't play Myles Garrett in the preseason. But how do they look against another group? Are they solidifying the way it looks like they're solidifying? Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson in the passing game, do they get any looks in that regard? Diamond Brown, he's had an outstanding training camp. So like because of how much covered time I spent covering the team, I'm literally interested in everything with the team. Like that's gonna sound crazy, but like I watch 2 hours of film of practice every single day. Like I want to see all of these guys do it in a game, you know?
So,
So
hey, so real
Being
fast, I know,
selfish, I want some of that footage.
yeah, I know you look at me and just think like athlete, but like I wasn't a professional athlete. What's up, dog? What are you
oh,
doing? But is it true some guys are just better in games? They're just not practice guys necessarily, and they'll go out there and just tear it up during the game.
it is true. And I also find that the reverse is true. Guys are excellent
Right.
practice players and they
Right.
get out in the game and they kind of like
Kyle
fold
was.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Christian Holmes last year was really interesting to watch because I never really, I'd seen that happen, but as an analyst, you cover the team so much more comprehensively. And so you get to see some of that a little bit more globally, right? It's like,
Right.
before I was only paying attention to me and my problems and my issues, but now like I get to watch everybody. Christian Holmes was balling in training camp last year, like looked really, really good. Got in the first game against Carolina, was it last year? And again, wasn't quite as dominant, looked a little bit unsure. And obviously he found his legs as the year went on in terms of special teams and playing gunner and doing some really dynamic stuff. But it was always just a reminder like, hey, practice is not games. So who is going to step up? Who's going to kind of regress? Again, that's why this is so important, especially for those young guys. Like we can sing all these young guys' praises and how well they've been doing the past couple of weeks, but in the game, when the lights are on, your first NFL game, your first like moment, I still vividly remember my first game. It's like a little bit, it's just different. And so who steps up, who regresses? Again, that's a huge deal for sure.
Absolutely. And Logan, to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you. But in a scale of 1 to 10, just in your opinion, because I feel like going against this defense is a good meter and to be able to justify a prediction just based on effectiveness. So out of 0 to 10, what do you have seen out of the RPO at practice? You don't have to go into detail, but 0 out of 10, what do you think the effectiveness has been?
I'm a little bit traditional in terms of how I like my run game cultivated. And what I mean by that is I like guys accounted for in the run game. And one of the things about RPO is it's really great because you don't have to account for that linebacker that you're reading off the ball. So sometimes, when you hand the ball off, that guy is running free to the football and makes the tackle. I think the RPO is an extremely effective tool. I just don't like how it looks all the time because sometimes you throw the bubble and they're in man coverage and it's just a big old wash over there. And I think in principle, it's very effective, but in execution in the NFL, because of the team speed, it's not always as effective as I think people would like. So I think the RPO is going to be a huge feature of this offense because I think Sam's pretty good at reading it. I think they've got good runners. I think the O-line understands how to do it. I think they're targeting those pretty effectively, but I think some of their more effective runs have lied in other categories, right? More gap scheme stuff, more tight zone. Like that stuff has looked really, really sharp. So as a supplement to kind of the meat and potato stuff that they've been doing, I think it's an excellent supplement, but I don't think you want to be like hanging your hat on that. And I might be a minority. The coaching staff might feel totally different, but that's just my perspective generally on RPO because of how fast defenses are in the NFL. It's challenging to make that consistently effective, but it is a great change up, I think, if you have some kind of foundational runs.
I said you don't have to go into detail, and I absolutely love the fact that you did because that was fantastic.
That was
Logan
still pretty
Paulsen,
high
dog.
level. I kept it high level.
Good. I'm
Kept it high
glad,
level.
Logan. You
Yeah.
always save the best for us, man. Now, Logan Thomas, obviously fellow Logan, fellow tight end. What is your concern level with him, and then also the young tight ends? Cole Turner's made some splashes. You talked about we
Yeah.
got to see them do it with the lights on, right? You could do a lot in training camp, preseason, but we need to see do it in games. So what is your kind of concern level with Logan,
Yeah.
and then the tight end group?
Logan Thomas used to be a quarterback. I don't know if you knew that, but
Yeah, that's good insight there, Mike.
Thank
yeah,
you.
all the
They only-
viewers now are super dialed in on that.
yeah, they only say it 15 times per broadcast, so I'm super pumped.
I'll make sure I throw that in for you
Yeah.
tomorrow on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so am I concerned about Logan Thomas? No, I'm not really that concerned. I mean, obviously there's like a little bit of a precedent in terms of injury history that makes you slightly concerned, but he has looked so gosh darn good at training camp practice. I mean, I just want him to get healthy. Ron says they're being very cautious. I think that's the right thing because like with how well he's been playing, I think you want him ready for week 1. So let's make sure that's a thing and everything's okay. And with regards to the young guys, I think, obviously Cole Turner's made a ton of plays. Bates has made a ton of plays. I think we should talk about Bates in the passing game and the running game. I think he's had a very solid camp, if not a little bit quiet. Really happy with what he's done. And, he's my guy, man. I have a lot of empathy for those blocking wide tight ends that have some pass game upside. I think he's
Of course
in that category for me. So Cole Turner, I think, has done a great job. You know, the staff speaks very highly of him, and I think they, like, rightfully so. Every practice he's making plays. He's got a good feel for zones. He can win in kind of these man-to-man choice situations, which is crazy to think about because he's 6'7". Dylan, the number 46, the kind of the fourth tight end, has actually had a nice, I'd say probably 3 or 4 days of practice with Logan being out, and really done a good job. He's done a good job in the run game. He's done a good job with his route stems. He's done a good job catching the football and just been very consistent and seems to be improving every single day. And then Curtis Hodges is a guy, man, that I just look at and I'm like, he was gifted by God with so much upside and so much potential. You see that in the run game on occasion. You see that in the pass game when he runs routes, and you're just like, man, a guy who's that big should not be moving that way. I just need to see some more consistency from him. So, Mike, you mentioned guys that you need to see kind of take a step forward. I'm hoping that when Curtis gets the lights on, the pads on, he's a guy that plays a little bit better in the game. Because I think all of the foundational stuff there, he probably, this is going to sound insane, but he's probably got the highest ceiling of the entire room. Like he's a converted wide receiver. He understands stems and double sticks and all this really high level stuff. Great. He's got the body to kind of win physical matchups. He just needs to finish the play a little bit more. So I'm hoping he gets some touches and gets some looks in the game. It kind of shows that he's ready for some varsity football, because in my opinion, and I like Curtis a lot, I just said that, he's not quite ready for the varsity football team yet. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's kind of how I feel about that room. Ton of potential, ton of just like freaks, and just about, I think Cole is so ready. He's so professional. He's so consistent in his approach. I think he's ready for something big here. But again, you got to see it. And so hopefully tomorrow night gets a couple touches and we all are like, wow, here we are. Cole's ready to go. And Logan gets healthy for week 1. And Bates is just John Bates and is super consistent. And then Curtis develops a little bit and is ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, because from Curtis on Tuesday, man, he put the ball on the turf way too many times.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot, and I understand what you're saying, but he definitely has all the traits. Last one I have for you, I know we've taken so much of your time, Logan, but last one, I asked a question to Selby on Tuesday when I saw him. I asked him, off the record question, and so I'm going to ask it to you very briefly. Do you think Washington should keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a new rule now, which I'm not super familiar with. So I'm sorry for everybody at home who's super familiar with the rule. It doesn't, the third guy on game day does not count against the 53. Is that a thing? Is that the rule?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm honestly just
we're
talking
all
out
on
of
the
my
same
ass.
boat, Logan.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So whatever
Sounds
that
right.
rule is, if it doesn't count, if you can keep him active without limiting your roster spots, I think there is no reason not to do that. And I think that was the intent of the rule, was to keep that guy on the roster because of like the COVID situation. You don't want guys like going down or whatever. So I would say if that's the rule, absolutely. If not, I think you try to get him to practice squad and then activate him when you need. But if an active quarterback, at least my like way distant understanding of the rule, then go ahead and do that 100%.
I got you.
Real fast, Logan, I just want to tell you 2 things. One, like a year or so ago, you talked about how wide receivers coming out run routes so much more because they're more intricate in running routes because they've been doing it their whole lives. I just wanted to tell you, my nephew plays football in Florida. He's 7, but he plays with 9-years-olds because he's a dog, obviously.
He's a baller.
But dude, my brother says that they pass more than they run in that league when they're like 7. Granted, it is a passing league, but also, Logan, you said something and it bugged me. You said that you're not an A-lister.
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm definitely not an A-lister.
Yes, you are. In this area, when it comes to the commentator, yes, you are. You're the one everybody likes.
If you hang out with Santana Moss, Moss,
but he's cool.
Spoon,
that's different. You and Santana Moss are not.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's cool, like so. Those that's A-list. I'm happy with where I'm at.
But it's a different A-lister. It's a different type of A-list. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
Yeah, if you're like standing next to Jenkins, then I would say that you both are on A-listers.
You compared to JP Finley, like you're the
don't
A-lister.
do that, Logan. I can't thank you enough for joining us again, brother. I always appreciate the time that you take for us because I always love everything you have to say. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, brother, and you have a new show coming out tomorrow on the Command Center, so make sure you guys all go and check that out on YouTube. Logan, have a great night, brother.
Thanks, man. You too. Thanks guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with a man, Mr. Logan Paulsen. I almost called him Logan Thomas.
He probably gets that.
What's up, James? How you doing, man?
He can't hear you. Remember, my headphones are in.
He doesn't have
He's
the
just
same ear size as I did when I was that age, and I
Mhm.
definitely
Yeah,
would have
but
been able to hear it by then.
he's got my head though. That thing is a goddamn dog.
Stupid. First question before we are joined by our next guest. I just wanted to ask you this question from the Colonel, and this was a really good one. Uh, Based on your responses last episode, there appears to be a consensus among you hosts that Joey Sly will be shown the door. In exchange for more consistency, we will lose ability to kick a 57-yard field goal. Do you think he will wind up with another squad this year if we cut him?
Mm.
And I'm not going to say that's what we think is going to happen. It was more so of like what we think is better in those scenarios, if that makes sense. Like, there's no guarantee that Badgley is more consistent than Joey Sly. I mean, obviously the stats could tell you that, but we can't predict the future. Sorry.
Right. I mean, granted, every time I'm at camp watching, I'm usually just going around networking and shaking hands and stuff with other A-listers, so I haven't been watching too big. But I like Joey Sly. I think he's too jacked to cut him, and I think you got to keep him here. Otherwise, he's going to be waiting out by the car for you at night. You don't want that.
Yeah, Ron Rivera really does love that Chevelle, and he doesn't want Joey to sit on it or
No,
something.
not at all.
Now,
No.
the next question from the Colonel. This is regarding the topic of the name change. His question is: your comments about changing the name back to Redskins would require significant investments from sponsors was spot on. Isn't another factor against becoming the Redskins again that Muriel Bowser, the D.C. mayor, made it a condition she would not make RFK Stadium site available unless the name was changed? Or does this bill by Kentucky Representative James Comer federalizing the RFK site override her authority?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would play a big part in it, right? I mean, if they want to go back to DC, especially, I'm gonna be honest, as awesome as it would be, they're not changing the name back to Redskins. Maybe they can throw them for a fast one, change the name to Indians or something, just watch heads explode. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think that's got to play a big part in it. JMO, calm down. I think that's got to play a huge part in it if they want to go back to DC.
I'm not sure if it would override her authority if they were to, because she's still the mayor of DC, and I think isn't what they're doing is basically giving the rights back to DC in order to actually give them away to the Commanders to put the stadium there. Because right now I think it's under, like, the feds own it, and like the guys that represent the people that represent that region are like not even from here. It's like Virginia, California, and something else. It's kind of ridiculous the fact that they're on it. But I think I'm not. That's all lingo and speak for me, Colonel. You know, I'm not all too familiar with that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nor do I.
Where's Hall at? Where's Hall at?
He's running a little bit late, brother. But
okay.
Before we are joined by our next guest,
Okay.
I wanted to ask this fan question, sir, because this was a fantastic one that was submitted on Twitter. This is from our guy Reg T. Skinner. Thank you, Reg. Is the latest flare-up much ado about nothing? Are the players really soft? Is EB a dinosaur coach that's just yelling? And will results show up when O is on the field?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I kind of asked Logan about it, touched a little bit, and look, I get it from the point of like we're professionals and we're men. Talk to us like you don't have to yell at us like that. But at the same time, man, that's coaching, dude. That's they act like if this guy hadn't won anything and he was coming in here and doing that, it would be like, all right, dude, what's going on? Talk to us like we're on your level, like we're all men here, we're all professionals. I'm assuming men. I don't know what people identify as, but it like when you got somebody who's coming off of a Super Bowl, who's orchestrating to an extent one of the best offenses the NFL has ever seen. He was sitting there at least learning it. That we know. You got to just sit there and take it. And plus, just listen to his past players. Listen to Tyreek Hill. Listen to these guys who are like, yeah, he's tough, but he cares. He's only tough because he cares. He's very detail oriented. He wants the best. He expects the best out of you guys. That's the whole reason that he does this, and it's only going to make you better if you listen to him. So I think that that's probably what the players got out of it. But yeah, I don't think. I think that this is the type of coach that we need here, man. I don't think we've had a coach like this in a while. You know?
Yeah, I do think it's much ado about nothing. But recently, I love the series Band of Brothers. Obviously, I've watched it probably 30 times at this point. But I finished the book recently, and the one thing that really sticks out to you is Sobel, who had commissioned the Easy Company, who had trained them at down in Georgia, was really a big a-hole to them. Forced them to do more than any other unit. Would force them to do night marches. Would not allow them to drink from their canteens during the 30-mile march in the middle of the night type stuff, really just pushing the envelope. And every single guy of Easy Company will tell you later on in life that as much as they hated Sobel, he really geared them and trained them to be able to be the best absolute unit that the Army had provided up until that point. And so, yes, you hate it at this time, but one later on you'll kind of realize, because the one thing about EB is, yeah, maybe he is a little bit too harsh and maybe he is a little bit too aggressive. But the fact is, the once you screw up on the football field when it comes to Sundays in September, December, that same stuff that EB's saying to you now is going to be said about you by media, by all the fan base, and you're going to see it and you're not going to like it. So either put up with it with EB and fix it, or you're going to be reaping that same stuff from other people down the road. So it's time to get yourself in order. And no, I don't think the players are soft. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I think the players here want to win. What I think happened is that this was explained to me really well by OGWCC. He said
he's the GOAT, by the way.
What he
awesome
said
dude.
is really, really smart. And what he said was, I think Ron Rivera is basically gearing Eric Bieniemy to be a head coach, because as a head coach, you not only do you have to be that aggressive, but you have to be having an openness about you, so people can feel welcome to come talk to you about things, right? Because usually the guy that's very aggressive at you, you're kind of intimidated on how they're going to respond to you when you ask them a question. And this is Ron Rivera's way of saying, don't come to me about this. Go talk to EB. Because when EB's a head coach, he's going to have that open door policy, or bad relationships are going to form and guys are going to hold resentment. So I thought that was a really smart way that he said it.
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, let's just be honest. We've known this about EB. I mean, everybody's not, he rubs some players the wrong way. Some players don't get along with him. That's literally been the thing his entire time. It's why hasn't he gotten a head coaching job? Well, some players don't get along with him, but like the players that do get along with him, it seems like he's got the best interest in that for them. And it seems like he's really produced with them and they've had some success on the field. So I think that it's just something, I'm sure it's tough and I'm sure it sucks. Look, I couldn't be yelled at all the time. Dude, I'm fragile. I am super fragile. And I would probably be pissed off, but at the same time, I'm not a pro athlete. I would just be like, you know what? You're right. I like to think I would. In reality, I'd probably be like, I quit. I'm never playing football again. This guy just yelled at me.
Yeah, and like I can understand that. A guy like not knowing, like if EB called him a bitch or something, like he's gonna be like, does he like not like me? Like what was going on? And Ron's like, no, dude, just go talk to him.
How did he know I was a bitch?
But like, not everybody responds in the same way. Like some people will get pissed off and try to prove it to the person who talked to them. Some people will kind of just get angry and then not care anymore, not put in that much effort, and other ways like that. So some people deal with things differently. And I think that Ron Rivera, he said it perfectly fine. And he had his foot in his mouth, and he was right, and he owned up to it. He didn't throw EB under the bus. He didn't do it on purpose. He didn't mean to. And it's just one of those things where nothing was made into something. But the worst part about it is the media jumping on it, claiming that the Commanders players are 100% soft and not wanting this. Like even my guy, that Tony Dungy, who I respect the heck out of, said, did the Commanders not do any research into Eric Bieniemy before they hired him? Like, Tony... Right. What? Don't do that, dude. Yeah. That's not what this is about at all. You know what I mean? And that kind of manipulation is what I don't like. And I don't think our guys deserve that.
I do also think, real fast, that you brought up a good point about it, where it's like, think about it. Like this is what we're talking about at this point in training camp with the new ownership. You guys should be thankful that it's just, as a coach, too hard on the players, as opposed to like, you heard about these allegations. Right. What do you guys think about him loitering money, or what do you guys think about him money laundering from other NFL teams?
And that's exactly my point on Twitter. Yeah, you're right. And I was like, look, like just bask in the normalness, because usually there'd be some off the field contract negotiation catastrophe going on, but instead we're talking about football problems, and
which
that
is weird for us.
Just bask in the normalness, guys. Right. As much as you want to complain about, just bask in it.
Which the one thing that does suck is it did definitely give the negative fake news mainstream media a bunch of ammo to just be like, oh, we're gonna rain as hard as we can because we're all just a bunch of negative nillies, and that's what they do. And the media, local media, is gonna local media, except for a select few, but some of them will take it.
Now this next question was submitted on Twitter by the War Room, which is a fantastic one. Will Sam Howell outperform Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud this season, Reed?
So I don't think so. I think if you look at the weapons around him, I think that you should say yes, he should have more success. And I like how, I really do. I think there's a chance that he outperforms Stroud. I don't think that he'll outperform Bryce Young unless Bryce Young gets hurt, obviously. I think Bryce Young is very rare in the sense like how advanced he is for coming into the league as a rookie. Just the way he seems to process things, the way he seems to go through reads as small as he is, his accuracy, his mobility, his arm. So and it's a new league. It used to be like quarterbacks would have a few years before they can start produce. Nowadays, you come into the NFL, you're producing right away. You're going out there and putting up big numbers. So I don't necessarily think that he'll outproduce those guys. I do think that he maybe I would put more money on him outproducing Stroud than I would Bryce Young, even though I think that we have more weapons than both teams.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. I will say it's Howell without a doubt, in my opinion, just based on the kind of weapons that he has here. If Christian McCaffrey was still in Carolina, I would say Bryce Young probably has a really good chance of outperforming him. But I will say the only reason that Bryce Young would outperform Sam Howell, in my opinion, is because they're going to be down in games and they're going to have to throw.
That's
Like they
true.
don't have the level of defense that we have.
Right.
Whereas Sam Howell can have a more controlled environment and can lean on the running game more so than Bryce Young would need to in distributing the footballs and throwing as much as he can
Yeah.
just to score some points, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Also, I mean, you really can't take for granted what having an extra season and playing in an actual NFL game before the season, like how big that is. Like he's got his nerves out of the way. I'm sure, obviously, there's still going to be nerves, but like he's got that out of the way. He kind of knows how the NFL operates. He knows what players do. He knows how things are supposed to go. So he's definitely got that going for him. And like we said, he's got the weapons. He's got the offensive coordinator. He's things are there. Hey, I could see it. I hope he does, but I don't know. I just think Bryce Young is a very rare quarterback, and I think we're all gonna be put on notice.
Yes. I will say this. Like with Sam Howell in particular and Bryce Young, like I don't want to crap on those guys at all. I think they're going to be very good at what they do. But like with Sam Howell, like I don't care where his stats line up. To be perfectly honest, as long as we're 16-0, like he could throw
Right.
for only
Yeah.
2,000 yards this season. He could have more interceptions than touchdowns. As long as we're winning football games, you won't hear me complain. You know what I
I
mean?
won't care. He could Trent Dilfer it
Unlike
all the
other
way to the
people,
bank for all I care.
unlike other people, you know what I'm saying, that we're complaining about the game. But let's move on to our fan questions. Two in the Discord chat server, and this one was fantastic by Orange Crush 92. He said, "I have a fun one. What was the worst slash funniest outdoor wildlife experience having to do with bees, bugs, poison ivy, or other animals slash plants you can remember?"
mm. One time, I'm sure I have other ones, but the one that comes to mind is I'm terribly afraid of snakes. Like big, like I don't trust them. I don't like them. I don't even care if it's a gardener snake. I don't want anything to do with it. And one time we were down at a creek and my friend had a towel wrapped around his hand and he had caught a snake and I didn't know. And he just started walking it up to me. And of course I screamed as I do.
And cried.
Who cares? Yeah, and I ran away, and I'll never forget. I looked at him and I was like, I swear to God, if that thing offers me an apple, I'm out of here. It was like a Bible reference. I was like, damn, that was pretty good.
That's a really good one.
It's terrible.
For me, OC, I feel like this question is an attack on me in particular. When I was in high school playing junior, I was playing football, and my dumb buddy friend Cameron, we were on Butler's Orchard and wanted to go build a tree stand, like as an idiot. So we
Naturally.
went around all day for 3 to 4 hours just searching the woods, and we obviously didn't do anything. But me and Cam both got poison oak. And my poison oak was really bad on my arm. Like it covered up my entire forearm. And so I couldn't practice. I couldn't play in the games. And I'll never forget the coach. We were warming up for one practice, the coach walking around. And he said, we got two offensive linemen playing grab ass in the damn woods, and now they can't practice at all. But then the other story is I got poison oak later on. And so I was already pissed off with poison oak, and this poison oak wouldn't go away. And I was out camping with my buddies, and we had a couple drinks, a couple gallons, couple liters, not that much. And so I told my buddy Yasu, I said, hey, bud, dude, do me a favor. Take that knife and put it in the fire. He left it in the fire for about 5 minutes. And what I did is I took my shirt off, I bit onto it, and he cauterized the poison oak that was on my arm. And I'm not kidding you, it freaking worked. I talked to my wife about this today. She told me I was stupid, once again, of course. But it worked. And but it was really cool because Yasu was like, afterwards, he said, Kyle, please don't ever ask me to do that ever again. He was like, I was about to throw up because at one point you kind of moved and your skin went with the blade, and it was just bad, dude.
How much of a man did you feel like? You were like, let me bite hold of this spoon while you solder poison oak off of me with a hot knife. One time we went camping with my friends. We just graduated high school. And I know you guys look at me and think, man, this guy can do anything. Like this guy is such a man, but I'm not. I hate being outdoors, dude. I hate it. So dumb. But one of my friends, refused to shower in the creek, so he dumped Chris Osherman, refused to bathe in the creek when we were there for like 5 days. So he started dumping the water bottles on him. So I had to leave 2 days early because I was severely dehydrated and go to the hospital. And they had to put an IV in my hand, and they couldn't find any of the veins on either hand because I was so dehydrated because Chris decided to shower with the bottles of water.
Oh,
and I was like, ugh. Yeah, that sucked. That wasn't fun.
No, it wasn't. Then, and I hate poison ivy, poison oak. I'm very obviously allergic to it, and I don't appreciate it. Now, this next question is from
It does kind of suck. Like, who made that? Who invented that?
My little brother Michael. He asks, Kyle, do you think the ones get snaps tomorrow or at all this preseason? But let's hold that, because now we are joined by our next guest, and unfortunately my internet never sent the email to Mr. Pete Medhurst, and I'm sorry, Pete, for that. For some reason, the email didn't send, brother. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys tonight?
Kyle was trying to avoid you, dude. Kyle was like, no, I'm not sending an email.
There's only room for one bald guy on
Check
this
his
show.
emails.
Yeah. And Pete, my first question for you, I want to kind of get your reaction to the Eric Bieniemy kind of aggressive saga that has been unfolding here. What is your impression of that situation?
Put me in the Brian Mitchell camp. If you're complaining about the coach coming in, trying to change the culture, a guy that, right now is demanding excellence. And if this was a 10, 11, 12 win team that he was coming into with a winning culture already, then yeah, I could see why you'd be a little offended if some guy came in. Kind of like when, Darryl Green, I think Marty Schottenheimer, they kind of had a little bit of a tit for tat, Hall of Fame corner, and a guy coming in wanted to change the way that he played, but nothing to this extent, I think, that we're talking about here. The question to me is if you're the one complaining, why are you complaining? To me, it's probably one of the linemen, because if you follow along the classic play-by-play from all the beat writers that are out there, Bieniemy's throwing guys out of the huddle, throwing the offense off the field when there's usually someone that false starts or something like that. But, you don't want to pin it on them without exactly knowing. Hopefully it just kind of goes away quickly. I mean, the whole thing could have been squashed. We should have never have known about that. Ron should have never said anything publicly about it in the first place. And he opened up a can of worms at a time when everything else is very positive about this team.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that. We're like, it does kind of suck that Ron just gave all the media all this ammo real fast to keep raining on our parade when we should be happy right now. But what do you expect from Sam Howell? What do you expect to see from him tomorrow? Do you expect to see him go out there and play multiple series? Do you expect him to see him for one series? What do you want to see from Sam?
I mean, this guy's played one game in the NFL. If you've got a veteran quarterback, you don't play him at all. Here's a guy that's played one game. Granted, that film was good against a good team. It wasn't like he was playing a 3-13 team in that last game last year. So, yeah, but I think you play him a couple of series because you've introduced a new offense. I think everybody plays a couple of series because you want to find some continuity. You want to make sure that nobody has to play that last game. You want to make sure that last game is for the guys that are competing for the last 10 spots maybe that are available on the roster, if you have that many that are open. But to me, you put Sam Howell out there, let them put something good on tape. And let's face it, this offensive line needs the work because right now they're getting worked by the defensive line. And let's hope that's as a result of the defensive line being good and living up to their potential, because as we know, there's like 65 top draft picks playing up on that defensive line right now. And hopefully they all play it like it at the same time, because if they do, that defense is going to be in business.
And just kind of off the field stuff, the Commanders announced today that they hired Craig Fisher, who's going to be helping with the new stadium relocation. Do you think that's great news?
I mean, look, Josh has got a great project going in Philadelphia with a new arena there for his basketball team. So if he's really doing that project, you want to make sure somebody else is at the point of the project down here right now. So sure. But I mean, let's face it, there's so much work to be done in terms of that A, location, and then B, what you can actually do with that location when you get it. And if you stay at FedEx, clearly you can build what you're trying to build, and you already own the land there, so you control that.
And Pete, that was a terrible question. I'm sorry, but I was flustered and I picked one that I wrote. 'Cause I write out like 30 of them, so I'm sorry. But I want to talk to you about Jacoby Brissett. My dad came for the first time, has never been to Washington training camp, came with me on Tuesday, and Jacoby Brissett was the one player he talked about more than anybody, really impressed with him. Have you been impressed with Jacoby Brissett, or was this like par for the course?
Jacoby Brissett is a NFL caliber quarterback. If you ended up having to start him, you could go win games. The Browns won some games with him playing as the starter last year. He's won some games everywhere he's been. Has he been great? No. Has he been sufficient? Yeah. Could he have been great if he was given a chance to play more and continuously play and develop in somebody's system? You could debate that because I don't think we've ever seen him, play consistently enough to show you that he could play a full 17 games year after year after year.
He's never
where
been that
peak,
guy.
Right. He's always been kind of like 1A,
right?
Or 1B. So he's a guy that can win games. I mean, is he a more polished version of Taylor Heineke? Probably. I would describe him as that because if you gave me the choice to start Brissett or Heineke, I'm starting Brissett. Mm-hmm. So, but ultimately, he's a guy that can make the throws in the league. And if for some reason Sam Howell doesn't give them what they're looking for, Jacoby Brissett, I fully believe can. Play the position.
Pete, it's not every day that we have somebody on here who's as in touch with the local sports teams as you are. What are your thoughts on Dylan Cruz? What Dylan Cruz has been doing so far? We're switching up to the Nats real fast.
He just had a home run last week, didn't he?
Dude, he had a grand slam yesterday.
Wow.
I watch a lot of college baseball. What he's doing is not surprising. Yeah, it's not surprising at all. And the Nats were in a win-win situation. If the Pirates take Cruz, you get Skeens, great. Yeah. You got a flame-throwing pitcher. They took Skeens, you get Cruz. Dylan's already showing you exactly why everyone was so high on him. Right. And I believe the young man has the right makeup, too, as a player. Yeah. None of this is going to wow him. You're going to see him, I would say, probably get some strokes at AA before the season is over with. And where he starts 2024 to me is wide open, depending on how he performs in spring training. I mean, if you wanted to put him at Rochester and let him play there, right. I fully believe he'd have been able to do that because to me, Friday nights in the SEC are equivalent to AA baseball. The guys that play in that league and the pitchers you see, the number ones that you see on every staff in the SEC, it's like playing AA baseball anyway. So if he'd have started at Harrisburg, I wouldn't have been surprised, and I think he'd be having the same success.
I mean, it's interesting, too, with him because, like, just a week ago in his second game, he was 0 for 5. Yet you look at his stats, the guy he has like a 444 average. His OPS is over 1. It's 1.309 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of those guys that never really goes into a super prolonged slump like 3 for 31. I don't think you're ever going to see that kind of thing from him. He's just too skilled of a player.
Yeah, a less douchey Bryce Harper.
To wrap this up for you, Pete, I only have a couple more questions for you. But one bubble player that you're keeping your eye on that you really hope that you're looking for tomorrow night versus the Browns, or you think that could possibly make this roster?
To me, I think what are we doing with the running back position? That position with Chris Rodriguez being drafted, let's face it, either one of Rodriguez, Williams, or Patterson are probably not making this team. I think Chris Rodriguez is a good player. Chris Rodriguez was the offense. It wasn't Will Levis at Kentucky. It was Chris Rodriguez. So I believe Rodriguez brings all the tools you're looking for to be a guy that could certainly back up, Brian Robinson at this point with this team. But one of those guys is not making the team. So to me, that performance is going to be also, let's sort out all these offensive linemen. We got a lot of bodies. Do we have a lot of starters is the question. The kid from Arkansas they drafted at center, I think challenges Nick Gates for the center spot. Chris Paul, who I'm very high on, saw Chris play a lot in college at Tulsa in the American Athletic Conference where Navy plays. So I'm eager to see Chris compete at that left guard spot and have a chance. And I've always thought Daniels from Utah is a guard, not a tackle. Same thing with Sam Cosmi. I said it the night he was drafted. He projected to me inside to play 10 years in the league. Sam was going to move inside to guard. He's going in there. So we got a lot of bodies to sort out. The question is, how many players are there on the offensive line side that you trust to go in a game and play in a game right now?
Pete, my next question I had written down was running back usage in this offense. C-Rod ? And you obviously hit that out of the park. Last question I have for you, Jamin Davis. What is your concern level with him in the linebacker position? Do you think are you expecting Jamin to miss a lot of time?
That's going to be, he's been back at practice. So that's going to be completely up to Ron. And I'm sure Ron has spoken with him at length about some maturity here. Those men in that locker room already suffered through seeing a teammate go through a bad crash, lose a loved one. And ironically, Jamin was not involved, but near the scene of that incident. So you would think that would deter you from going 114 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. So to me, with him, it's about focus. How focused are you on the things you have to do to play football well in the National Football League? How mature are you at handling all of this? Because, something like that, when we look around the league, we look at Henry Ruggs today, going to get anywhere from 3 to 10 years in jail because of his incident, excessive speed, a crash, someone dies in that situation. So to me, I think the young man has physical tools. I don't doubt that. Right now, though, what he has called into question is his maturity and how focused he is on his job as a professional football player. He's brought that into question. That's not us, putting that question out there. Everything he does is, right now telling you that, maybe that's not necessarily the case.
Right. It's funny because when that happened, I didn't know about the entire story, and I was like, he's not gonna get any time. He's fine. He'll be. But then, after hearing about actually what he did, dude, come on, man. You can't be going 143 or whatever.
Go Google the Jason Worth story. Yep. Jason was going far slower than Davis was.
Jason Worth's a freak too. He liked going to jail apparently during the weekends. Apparently he had a good time.
And it's look, Virginia doesn't play around. Yeah. You may not like the rule. There may be other states. We can argue about speed limits on certain roads. Look, let's go down to North Carolina where we can drive 70 and 75 miles an hour with no problem. The state of Virginia, I say this to kids. I say this to parents, people all the time. You may not like your boss, okay? But if he has certain rules, you may not like him. But if you want to stay employed, you got to respect him and you got to live by him. And in this case, if you're driving in Virginia, don't go 20 miles an hour over the speed limit because they're going to write you up and you are going to go to jail more than likely. And in the case of Davis at 114 and a 45, that's not just going to be a couple of weekends.
Yeah, he wasn't drafted into NASCAR, Pete. He might be a little bit confused.
He should talk. Look, if he wants to drive that fast, he should talk to Coach Gibbs. I'm sure Coach Gibbs can get him into their developmental program down there.
Absolutely, Pete. I can't thank you enough, sir. Hope and go enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. I always appreciate your time that you have for us, sir.
You got it, fellas. Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
All right, everybody. We spoke with the man, the voice of DC, Mr. Pete Medhurst. Always appreciate being able to talk to him.
Pete's the best because Pete knows so much about not just the Commanders and the Nats, but also the Orioles and the Ravens. Life. He just Navy, everything. And college, everything. Yeah, he's a man.
Now let's go to our fan questions in the Discord chat to finish up this episode. This one from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi, thank you, Scott. Geezers, what was the most enjoyable part of attending training camp? And do you want to attend other NFL-related things as a bucket list item, like i.e. the draft?
I think that word is geezers, Kyle, as in old people.
Whatever, man.
Not geezers.
I'm tired.
Yeah, like I said, just meeting all the fellow A-listers was pretty cool for me. And the one thing I want to do is be with the UK boys, So that's on my bucket list.
For me, what was the most enjoyable part of attending training camp? For me, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was flabbergasted. My dad came back. I think he went to go get water or something. He came back and he was like, all right, man, are you ready to go? And I was like, what? And it was 10 minutes left on the 11-on-11s in red zone work. And I was like, Dad, we are spoiled right now. They are going over the limit for the first team and they're still in red zone. We've been watching 11-on-11s. So by far, it was just enjoying that and like seeing it from the bleachers, because I've been to training camp before and it was always at eye level. There was always somebody in front of you. All you see is bodies and colors. You can't really tell what is happening. But with the bleachers there, you actually get a great view of what is happening on the field. And it was really, really cool to be able to record that video of Terry McLaurin and Sam Howell catching the football. And that was just kind of I don't know, like that was just kind of an indication of like just kind of like how much fun I was having just being there with the team and watching practice. I wasn't kidding to Logan. I want that footage, man. I would pour over that footage.
No, yeah. You'll definitely get it too. I'm sure he'll send it to you.
Yeah, with the draft and all that, I wouldn't really care about. But
then you can sell it to the Cleveland Browns.
No, I will say this. I'm not going to say the pros challenge, like if they bring back the skills challenge kind of thing. The Super Bowl, I think that's something that everyone should have to be able to enjoy. Because like doing Radio Row, I think that would be really cool with you and the mics. Like to be able to do that one day, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and for sure not the Pro Bowl.
No.
How insane is that? It's literally 2-hand touch or flag football now.
Yeah. Well, they changed. It's going to go more towards the skills challenge now.
Yeah, but it's so we all joked about it for the longest time. We're like, just make them play flag football or 2-hand touch.
Now, this next question from Big Tony Shivers for Kyle and Reed: if Hall was at the docks and got into a jam, would you swim across the channel to have his back?
So first of all, Tony, that's an awesome question. That's one of my favorite videos of all time. Because usually, like, look, I'm not gonna lie. You watch a fight video and you see like a white guy versus a black guy. You always bet on the black guy to win that fight. And this was like these crazy whites were going all out on this guy. And I was like, when's it happening? When's it happening? When did the tides turn? He threw the bat signal. Yeah, he threw the bat signal up, and they got there, and it was so funny to watch that. And like the whole time, you're just like, yeah, it was like a redemption arc. It was so cool. So how fast would I swim? Pretty fast. I mean, I would have a chair. I would totally have a chair too. That was so funny.
I was disgusted by it.
The most underrated part of that video is when the chick gets thrown in the water.
Yeah,
a lot of people didn't even see it.
She was trying to. She actually had the presence of mind to try to stop the dude from fighting the security guard, and then some other dude runs up and starts fighting the security guard, jumping him, and then so she's trying to squash all that, and then she ends up getting thrown in the water. I felt so bad for that lady, man.
You know, sometimes people
I didn't watch the full video, by the way, but
sometimes people catch strays.
I just felt so bad for the security guard. Like he's just doing his job.
He was doing nothing. He was doing nothing wrong. These people were ignorant and just came over and started jumping.
Obviously, they'd been drinking too much. But of course, I would do that for Hall. I'd come in flying with the folding chair, dude. I don't care.
Oh, dude,
I'm 2%. I can do that.
You would have heard glass break, and I would have came out in a vest and underwear like Stone Cold and started dropping stunners on people.
Now, I've told this in the Discord chat. I'll say it again to you guys. If you ever do get jumped, just get naked. Nobody ever wants to be seen beating up a naked guy, because it's like, why are you beating up the naked guy? That's kind of weird. Why are you, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And
psychological warfare, babe.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, that is a very good idea. I don't know how much that would have helped in that situation.
No, it would not have helped him. I'm just saying in the future, like if you're feeling like somebody might be robbing you or something, just just get naked. Now the next question from Tim Towner in the Discord. Good morning from just south of the Great White North. As Tuesday was Military Appreciation Day, which side of the Great Divide do you stand when it comes to rooting for our military academies? Are you go Army or go Navy? Reed is Navy. He likes a soggy waffle.
My brother was in the Navy. A lot of family, like my uncle Jerry was in the Navy. I think my dad was in the Army. So we've been to Army Navy games multiple times. But usually when we went there when I was younger, we sat on the Navy side, and that's because my uncle got the tickets. I know my dad was always still rocking Army stuff. He was like, I don't care. I'm a man. I'm just happy to be around all these military bros. I don't care. And I was like, Dad, Vietnam, dude, that was so long ago. But no, hey, I mean, I'm just pro.
Confused?
Yeah, I'm confused. Yeah, there we go. I'm very supportive of our military fighting each other. So like that's what
obviously I'm the side of both. Tim, Team Merrick over here. But I will say, obviously, my grandfather was in the 10th Mountain Division. Father-in-law is an Army Ranger. So I identify a lot with the infantry, with the Army. Going with obviously Band of Brothers, Easy Company, the Airborne. So I identify with Airborne and Army more so than anything else. But obviously the Navy has the Navy SEALs, some of the best warriors that you could possibly
And what did they do?
And ask
What did
them,
they do?
ask the Navy SEALs if Eric Bieniemy is being too harsh and aggressive on Washington's players. I would love to hear their response to that, because the purpose of their boot camp being so hard is because they want to basically kill you, because that is actually easier than what you're going to be confronted against once you get into battle, and that's the whole point of it all. And I'm sure our players understand that. Now, The last question from Tony Franchise in the Discord.
Remember when they got Bin Laden?
How long should the starters play in the preseason game, especially Sam Howell?
That's tough, because I want to see it. Like, if it wasn't based on what other starters are going to be around him, I'd want to see Sam Howell play the entire first half, just because I want him to get those reps. I want him to be out there, but like, you can't have him out there without a lot of his starting offensive linemen and a lot of his weapons. So I still want to see Howell do multiple series, but will that happen? I don't know. But the starters too, man, you're not going to see a lot of them, but maybe one series or so.
Yeah. I wouldn't start him at all. There's no value in this preseason game. Obviously, the experience is immense, but you can get that in the scrimmages against the Ravens and kind of when things are much more controlled in a sense. And I'm concerned about the injury with Sam Howell possibly. We want 17 games out of him. And yes, you want him to play in the preseason, but the problem that I have is not everybody is going the same speed. And you can't guarantee that on every single play, especially in the preseason. In the regular season, you definitely can. There's definitely different feeling with it. But when guys aren't getting paid for their services in these games, how much are they really putting into it, right? And so with Sam Howell, and I don't want all that much film being out on Sam Howell. How many times has Hall said, once a team has 6 games on you, a defense has 6, they can kind of really adjust to a quarterback. I don't want to put that game tape out there. I want to sit you down. I want to Sean McVay this thing. Y'all can call me any name in the book. You can call me safe, because Sam Howell's going to be healthy week 1.
Yeah, I'm just selfish, and I want to see him play for my own.
Yeah, I know. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Hall got hemmed up shopping with his wife, so he's got a little bit busy, so we missed him for this episode. Appreciate Logan, appreciate Pete Medhurst, and everybody who contributed to this episode. I really do love you guys. All right, and obviously, it was a pleasure being able to spend training camp with our family, with the Colonel, with my father, obviously, and then Tony Shivers came, Tim Towner and his wife. That was fantastic. They drove up from Georgia, which is fantastic to be able to see them, because obviously Tim has been a huge supporter of this show as well, and it was really a good time. And Tony, I love Tony. Tony's a really good, like Tony and I have talked, like even though we've never met, it's like we were
I was about to say,
time.
Tony and Tim, those are 2 guys I wanted to meet. You know what I'm saying? But I was too busy going around talking to people that mattered too much.
And then we saw Hercules and obviously Deuce, Kim Parkhurst. It really was a great time.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you guys on Monday. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. I'll say another prayer for this one, and hopefully we get through on the other side perfectly healthy. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
And I'm transgender.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo, or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before the Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo, or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.